Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing Final Fantasy XII on the GeForce GTX 1050 Ti. For performance monitoring, I'll be using CAM. If you want to download this software, there's a link down in the description. And if you want to support me, there are Humble and Amazon affiliate links down in the description as well. So Final Fantasy XII, the remaster. I'll be doing 1080p, 1440p and 4K. To skip none of those sections of the video, check the description below. So first of all, I'll show you 1080p with the highest settings, excepting anti-aliasing, which I will turn off. You have MSAA as well to select, but I avoided MSAA since even by using 2x MSAA, I get drops below 60 frames per second in some very specific scenarios. You can enable it just fine, but expect drops into the 50s while running into the city or fighting many enemies at once. So while 1080p runs totally fine, 60 frames per second, maybe a drop or two to 57 in very specific parts of the city, and since the frame rate is capped at 60 frames per second, I didn't see a problem by enabling VSync on 1080p since we have some GPU power to spare. But then at 1440p, I'll show you how to get 60-ish FPS, which I mean over 50 frames per second because it varies between those two numbers. I just lowered the ambient occlusion from full resolution to off, so I just disabled ambient occlusion, and that was enough to be pretty close to 60 frames per second. You can lower a couple extra things to make it more consistent, but I don't recommend enabling VSync this time around because it can usually make the game stutter a little more. So in this case, I just recommend enabling fast sync from the NVIDIA control panel. That usually gets rid of most of the screen tear, and you don't get the stutter you get with VSync, which is a good thing to have. And then I just crank up the settings, trying to show you that we can stay over 30 frames per second just fine. And finally at 4K, it was impossible to get to 60 frames per second, so I just show you the lowest settings, and you'll see that I get drops to 28 frames per second, sometimes in the city. So in this game I don't recommend 4K. It doesn't feel as smooth as 1440p or 1080p. I just show it because it's possible, but I don't think it's worth it. You have to lower the settings, plus the game is not as consistent as I just said. So now I'm going to talk to you about the options menu. You'll notice that the CPU usage is quite low. We only have 2 cores, 4 threads, so I wouldn't worry too much about CPU. That's why I'm just using the i3. Remember, the G4560 will run the same as this, so nothing to worry about here. So I'm actually surprised that this game has an in-game options menu. Usually Final Fantasy games on PC have a launcher that only has a few options here and there. We can choose resolution, VSync, the frame rate limit. We only have 30 or 60, so the game is capped at 60 frames per second. You're gonna go over that frame rate. We also have shadows, so you can choose the resolution of the shadows, characters of shadowing, which is that shadows cast over characters. Then you have MSAA if you want to use it 2 times, 4 times or 8 times, and you can combine that with post-process anti-aliasing. You can use SMAA1X or FXAA, and this game also has ambient occlusion, so you can select half resolution or full resolution or just turn it off. Then depth of field, glare and soft particles. But if you're just trying to get better frame rates by lowering stuff, shadows, characters of shadowing and ambient occlusion should be your first things to lower. The other ones don't make a huge difference overall, but usually the biggest performance hit is when you are just fighting with many enemies at once or do a quickening or something like that. But that's usually not a big problem because there is little inputs to be done compared, for example, to a first-person shooter where you're just aiming very precisely with your mouse. So at the beginning I'll show you just running around the city. That's where I got the biggest performance hit at the very start of the game. Then I'll just head outside, hit a couple enemies and go back. So you'll see more or less that the city is the biggest performance hit in this video. I think of it as important because you are moving around the city quite often. But remember, this is a remaster from a PS2 game. I'm still quite surprised that a PS2 game can look this good, even so many years after its release. Of course, it has a lot of graphical improvements, but still, I think it's quite impressive. But yeah guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you keep enjoying the video. Thanks for watching and see you next time.
Yeah. 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 Yeah!